I normally film these when my husband is either asleep or out, and today he is in the room next door and it's making me really quite nervous actually, but let's crack on anyway. Hello everybody and welcome to the Ferret and Gibbon podcast. Thank you very much for coming and spending some time with me in my little corner of the internet. It is April the something. Dates have lost all meaning for me at the moment, I'm afraid. I'm in a particularly busy period at work at the moment. It's always between March and June each year is quite a busy one for me as we ramp up to a major sort of project that we run each year. And yeah, that means that basically days, times and everything have lost all meaning and I've got no idea what's going on in the world anymore. But it'll all be fine in the end. Have taken the opportunity, the very small opportunity, to have an extended weekend this weekend. So Neil and I have both taken Friday and Monday off, so having a nice long weekend. On Friday we went to Margate because we could. I wanted to go and see the Turner Contemporary Gallery, which was really interesting. There was an exhibition on by a lady called Katie Paterson, and it was a mixture of her work and Turner's work interspersed with each other and setting each other off. And there were, as with all art, there were some bits that didn't really resonate with me, but there was a couple of pieces that I could have just stayed and I wanted to embrace them. I loved them that much. So yeah, that was really interesting. Unfortunately, the Anthony Gormley sculpture that's out in the sea was completely underwater because the tide was high, so we didn't get to see that. But we had a nice day, had a little bit of a wander around some little shops. Saw a couple of blue plaques on the buildings, which I always loved seeing. We saw one that said that Eric Morecambe had his wedding reception in the Bull pub, which was fun, didn't know that. Love Eric Morecambe. And then we saw the building where Hattie Jakes used to live, which also Hattie Jakes and John Le Mesurier used to live together. So that was really cool as well. I didn't realise that they were Margate people. So that was a fun day out in some sunshine, glorious weather. And on Monday we are planning to go to the place that's name that I can never remember, but where it's an outdoor living museum, and it's also where they filmed The Repair Shop, which is one of my all-time favourite TV programmes at the moment. If you haven't seen it and you're in the UK, it's on the BBC iPlayer. The latest season has just started. It's a glorious show where expert crafters repair things for people, and these are things that sort of usually have a lot of emotional significance for the people that are being repaired for. So it might be the episode I was watching the other day, it was a music box that a lady, her dad had given it to her mum, and it was sort of telling the story of him. He had been a magician, a performer on stage, and just the story. And one of the songs on the music box was called The Last Rose of Summer. Her mum was called Rose. It was just very sweet. And so you get these lovely sweet stories and these really professional, really lovely expert crafters doing their best to restore these items sympathetically and make them really lovely. Definitely highly recommend it. So that's The Repair Shop. It's on BBC. If you have access to the BBC, please do watch it. It's wonderful. But yeah, so it's the Weald and Downland Living Museum, I think. Anyway, where that's filmed, and that's where we're planning to head off to on Monday. So that'll be our nice little weekend out, a little bit of a weekend treat before getting thrown back into the whirlpool of work. So spring has definitely started to spring. And to celebrate that, I went to, a couple of weekends ago, I went to a paper flower making workshop, and you can see some of the results of my labour up here. Let's have a little look with the camera. Hopefully you can see some of my paper flowers that I've made. So the paper flower making workshop, this was a workshop run by Laura Reed. She was a contestant recently on Kirsty's Handmade Christmas. She won the category on sort of creating a table decoration, but she was doing a workshop in my local town, in one of the little local shops, Paisley and Friends, and it was great fun. Just a nice little 2-hour workshop. Got to learn some new techniques, and I've picked up some templates from her so I can make a few more for my tree. So I think I've mentioned this before. So this tree is just a big paper mache plastic thing with LED lights in it, and I try to decorate it at different times of the year to sort of to represent the seasons. So over Christmas it had Christmas decorations on it. Now we're into spring, it's got flowers. As we start going through the year, I'll start to add greenery. In autumn it'll have like autumnal leaves on it. I think I showed you before that on the little pumpkins that I'm planning to hang off it once we get to October. So it's just about bring a bit of a way to bring a bit of seasonality into the house, especially as we don't have a garden. So it gives us that little bit of a connection with what's going on in the outside world. I've definitely got a bit of a crazy hair thing going on today. That's what happens when you wash it before you go to bed at night. It's fine, we'll leave it. I feel like I need to... I'm going to use this opportunity, I'll cut this up, I'm going to use this opportunity to see what the back of my hair actually looks like at the moment, because I asked Neil to shave the back of my head yesterday, and it certainly, well, it terrified him. I'm not particularly precious about hair. I very much subscribe to the mantra that hair grows and whatever you do to it, you can fix it next month. Neil was terrified when I asked him to go near the back of my head with a razor. So obviously I can't see it particularly well, but there was just so much bulk back there that I had to get rid of. And just finding the time to go to hairdressers at the moment isn't happening. So hence all of this. There's so much hair. It's just everywhere. All the hair. We'll just have to do what we can with it. Do the best we can. Anyway, knitting stuff. That was kind of, I guess, the primary reason people are here. So I have been continuing to work on my... Just dropping stuff on the floor, don't mind me. I've been continuing to work on my Boxy sweater that I cast on a couple of weeks ago. So this is making some progress. It's still a long way from being a sweater, but it is more than the hem, which I think it was all that I had done last time that I showed it to you. This is a Boxy sweater by Locatelli. This I am knitting in... It's a fingering weight Boxy, but I am knitting it in 3 strands of lace weight yarn held together, and it's producing a very nice drapey fabric, so I'm really pleased with that. And the yarn is a mixture of, there's a strand of silver, a strand of sort of a purpley maroon, and a strand of a bluey black, and held together they're producing this lovely mild effect, which I'm really pleased with. It's quite fun. This is predominantly my commute knitting at the moment because it fits really nicely into this little tiny bag, and because it's such light yarn, it's not a faff to carry around too much. This yarn is stuff that I've had in stash for quite a long time, and I originally bought it because it came on cones. I mean, that was literally the reason that I bought it, was, oh, it comes on a cone, I am going to use this on my knitting machine. I haven't used this on my knitting machine. That's not true. I did some test pieces on it on the knitting machine and then promptly put the knitting machine away again because it scares me. So I've got thousands of meters of this yarn now on cones to use up. So I started knitting this from cones. found that I hate knitting from cones, so I've wound it all off into one big ball of the 3 strands together, which now has made it into a much more portable project, which is great. So it makes for fantastic commute knitting on my trip into and out of London every day. So yeah, slow progress, but progress being made nonetheless. However, what I found was that knitting with the 3 strands of yarn held together required a little bit more concentration than I was expecting it to. So originally I thought Boxy, stockinette stitch, way hey, let's go. But actually, because it's the 3 strands held together, I'm having to watch it a little bit more to make sure that I actually catch all 3 strands. So it's less useful for me as television knitting. It's great for commute knitting where I can listen to podcasts and knit at the same time. Because it doesn't require concentration, it just requires looking, if that makes sense. But that meant that I then didn't have a really nice, mindless television and knit night project. So I cast on something new. And what I cast on was another Boxy, because of course I did. Why wouldn't you have 2 Boxies on the needles at once? This one is a worsted weight Boxy. Again, made a little bit more progress on this one, but I mean, probably about the same number of rounds. It just looks more because this is the worsted weight. This is being knit in Manos Uruguay Maxima yarn in the Passionflower colourway, which was an accidental purchase. Really. So, my mother-in-law had, or my father-in-law has it now, but my mother-in-law had a big cross, she was a big cross stitcher, and she had a big picture of a Passionflower cross stitch on her wall, and it was a beautiful, really beautiful cross stitch pattern. And both me and my sister-in-law had on a number of times mentioned how we would both quite like one. And while mother-in-law still had the actual pattern for it, she didn't have any of the charts that marked out what colours were what. And it's the kind of fact you really need to get the colours right on the patterns, because otherwise it's just not going to work. So I've been keeping an eye out for this for ages on eBay to see if this particular cross-stitch pattern would ever pop up. So I just had cross-stitch Passionflower alerts set up in case anyone ever listed the set. And one day I was just checking this alert, and this Passionflower colourway just popped up because someone had put it in the wrong category. They put it under cross stitch rather than under knitting. And I was like, well, that feels like it's meant to be, because, I mean, look at these colours, they're beautiful. And Manos del Uruguay is one of my favourite yarns anyway. And it was a reasonable price. And yeah, so I bought 8 skeins, I think, of this. It might be 8 or 9 skeins of this. And then I happened to look at the other listings that person was selling, and also bought 2 other colourways of yarn as well. Oops. But all of that happened in the past, which means, and so there's, I mean, a couple of years ago now. So this is stash yarn, and that means it's free, because that's how yarn and money work, right? Sure? Yeah. And the PS is that I did eventually find the cross-stitch pattern. It is on a frame. It's one of those projects that I go back to occasionally, and one day I will finish it and have my own version of this beautiful Passionflower cross-stitch. If I remember, I'll dig it out and I'll show you next time where I've got to. It's a big project. It's quite detailed. It's one that requires good lighting. So hopefully now that we're moving into summer and the days are getting much lighter again in the evenings, I might be able to put a little bit more progress on that. So 2 Boxies, because of course I've got 2 Boxies on the go. But you know, those are longer term projects. I acknowledge that they're going to take me, I'm not the fastest knitter in the world. They're going to take me a little while to make progress on. I'm hoping to have both of them finished by autumn. If they're done before then, that's a bonus, but I'd really like to get them done for autumn. But that meant that I really wanted something that I could get a little bit more instant gratification on. So I cast on, because rather than finishing any of the other projects that I've got lying around and also need work on, I cast on something else. So I was doing a bit of organising of stash and tidying up and came across this yarn again, which has been lying around for 4 or 5 years. This was a Kickstarter award that I got, let's say, 4 or 5 years ago from Dachs yarns. I think this is the pot of gold colourway, and I think it is, yeah, 100% superwash merino, and it's a lovely colour. And I've cast stuff on, as you can probably tell from the state of this ball. I've tried making other things of this before a couple of times and never quite found the right pattern colour combination before. But so when I was reorganising things, I picked this up again and thought, I can definitely do something with this. And then I also remembered that I had a pattern in my Ravelry queue that has again been there for probably since I first joined Ravelry, so many years ago, and that's the Wingspan shawl. And I thought maybe those two will work together. So I've abandoned this halfway in the middle of a row, so this is going to be fun to try and show you. But the Wingspan shawl is this one. It's quite simple. It's a garter stitch shawl with these lovely triangular wedges, short row wedges, and I think it's working really well with the colours. It's really sort of pulling out the rainbowy bits. It's a one skein project, except that I have got ends to weave in because, as I said, I've tried making things out of this yarn before and wound it off again, so it was in a bit of a state and needed a bit of TLC, but I think it'll be fine. I think I'm back onto now the continuous bit where there's no more joins. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with this. It's quite, I like projects with short rows because you get sizable projects, but you don't have to have all of the rows going on forever. So you feel like you're making more progress. And also, in the sort of the nature of these kind of projects, every time you finish a wedge, you get a bit of satisfaction of a job finished, and do like those bits of finishing satisfaction. So that's really good. And yeah, so this is quite a simple project. I've put it down for 2 weeks now, and may have to remind myself again of what I'm doing when I pick it back up again, but it's yeah, it's really cute. I think it'll just be just a nice fun little shawl. So yeah, excellent. Really pleased with that. Simple little project, one skein project, but it's nice to begin to be using some stuff out of stash. All about the stash busting at the moment. So all 3 of these projects, the lace weight boxy, fingering weight, the worsted boxy, and the Wingspan, all stash yarns, all therefore get to go part of Stash Cal 2019. So I just need to get them finished now, but I've got a year to do it. That'll be fine. The only other things that I've really been knitting on the last few weeks are some Hexi Puffs. I've been picking up my Hexi Puffing again. I can't tell you which of these are the ones that I've been doing recently. Yeah, probably that one. But I've probably made sort of another 5 or 10 Hexi Puffs over the last couple of weeks. Just digging into some of my miniskeins. I mean, to be honest, whether I actually make anything with these in the end or not, I don't know, but I love squishing them. Squish, 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 very satisfying. But I have got all sorts of colours of, that's not going to work. Open the bag up properly. Let's fold it back. That's a bit better. I'm going to be picking this up for ages. Loads of different colours of little Hexi Puffs. These are a mixture of mini skeins that I've picked up, mini skeins that came out of my advent calendar that I had at the end of, that I got for a Christmas present, Christmas 2017, and I opened up for January 2018. Mini skeins that Neil gave me as part of my advent calendar, Christmas 2018. Bits and bobs of end of project yarn. That one is some leftover yarn from the shawl that I made for Abby for her wedding. that's a bit of leftover from a hat. Yeah, so there's various bits and pieces in here from various different places. Oh, that's another shawl left over. Really lovely colours in here. They've all, I have not been consistent in how much I've stuffed any of them. The gauge is slightly off on some of them. I'm working on the theory that once I actually tie them together, some of them will be a bit poofier, some of them won't. It'll all even out in the wash and it'll be fine. But yeah, again, it's the instant gratification that you get of finishing a Hexie Puff, because you can make a couple of them in an evening and you go, yay, I finished 3 projects. That's definitely how it works. I've always intended to make a big quilt out of these. I've got a picture on my head of my spare room being converted into a beautiful craft room / guest room at some point, and having it as a quilt on the day bed that I want to put in there. And to be honest, by the time I've actually finished this, which has already been on the go for forever, I might actually have got around to sorting out the spare room and turning it into something a bit more craft room like. But still, I enjoy the Hexie Puffs. I enjoy picking them up occasionally and just having a little bit of fun with them. And it's not as if I haven't got enough mini skeins to crack on with. There's quite a few in here and they've gone everywhere. I can't remember, I think I've mentioned this before, but this is the big yarn bowl that Neil made me for Christmas a couple of years ago, with my name on it that he made himself. So that's lovely. I've got yarn all over the floor now. I think one of the things I quite like about this is, in using the mini skeins, I use colours that I probably wouldn't use in other contexts. So I quite like these pastel-y pinks and peaches and things. I probably wouldn't make a whole garment out of them. Like baby blues, again, not really something that I would make a whole garment out of, but as pops of colour within a bigger blanket. Yeah, I really like that. What I've also done is I've wound off recently some leftovers for some of the shawl projects that I've been working on recently. Into 20-gram mini skeins. So for a lot of them, I've still got a little bit of something else left over somewhere else, but I wanted 20-gram mini skeins from these leftover projects to contribute to the Hexie Puff blanket. I didn't want so that they get roughly the same amount as I'm getting out of other colours. And then the other bits of leftovers, I'm going to do something else scrappy with, maybe a scrappy crochet blanket or something like that at a later stage, to use up all the lovely bits and pieces. Also, I really hate waste. So what I've started doing is, for the bits of leftover yarn that are then too small to make Hexie Puffs out of, they're starting to go into a little magic ball. And obviously, as you know, it takes very little yarn to make a Hexie Puff, so imagine how small the bits of yarn are that are on here. But that, no idea what that's going to be yet, but at some point that will be something once it grows up. But yeah, that's using up all of those. I'm not going to throw any bits away. And then the really tiny bits of yarn that are too small even to go into that, like the bits I cut off once I've sewn in ends, they all go in my jar of endy bits from all sorts of various different projects, all sorts of different yarn weights in here. But I'm collecting these together to do something with at some point. I've seen a tutorial for making trash bats, where I sort of snip it all up into little tiny bits and mix it up with some wool for spinning. So I quite fancy that as an idea. I've never spun anything before in my life, but again, by the time I've got enough of stuff collected together to make doing it worthwhile, I might actually have had time to learn how to spin, or at least have time to start learning how to spin. But yes, trying to avoid waste wherever possible. it's one of the things I really like about crafting is, and yarn crafts especially, is that you can always find something to do with that extra little bit of material. And you can always rip things out and start again and reuse material in a way that is sometimes a little bit trickier with sewing patterns and things like that. It can be done, but you start to lose a lot of fabric quite quickly when you lose the seams. But with knitting and crochet, you can reclaim stuff if you've decided it no longer works or no longer does what you wanted it to do. And I think that's really nice. A little bit of stash acquisition. I'm taking part in the solidarity swap that's taking place over on Ravelry, and I received from my partner as part of my swap this beautiful skein of Qing Fibre. This is a merino cashmere nylon base, and it's in the underwater colourway, which is just divine. It's so pretty. So yeah, so that's Qing Fibre, really pretty. So thank you very much to Jenny Fenn for that. It's merino cashmere nylon is fast becoming my favourite yarn base. It's just so strokeable and so soft and really, really lovely. So thank you very much. I would share what I have bought for the swap to send back to Jenny Fenn, except that it's currently on my desk at work, where I have had it for a couple of weeks now and keep forgetting to take it to the post office. Sorry, I promise it will be in the post for you this week. It will be on its way to you. And then I might try and share some photos of it afterwards once Jenny Fenn's received it. I also got in the parcel with the yarn some pins, which are over there somewhere at the moment. I'll share those with you next time. Also, one of the lovely ladies at Knit Night gave me some sock yarn. This, or possibly sock yarn. We're not entirely sure what fibre it's made out of, so it might be a shawl rather than a sock. But this is really beautiful. The labelling is not quite right, so I won't bother showing you the labels because we're not sure if that actually is what is in the skeins. But really pretty colours. I've got a couple of skeins of this, so hopefully make something out of that at some point soon as well. And thank you very much to my lovely yarny Knit Night benefactors. I'm really enjoying going to Knit Night. I'm so glad that that I've joined that group. They're such a lovely group of ladies, and yeah, it's really nice to start to get to know more people in the local area, because while we've been down here 4 years now, because we still both work in London, finding time to actually meet people and get to know people around here is still a little bit trickier. So it's really nice to take these opportunities to meet people and to get to know other people around here, especially those with joint interests, and to be able to nerd out a little bit about knitting. And yeah, it's really lovely, so I'm really pleased to have joined that. And then my last bit of yarny-ish news this week is Leslie from the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast lent me these two books, the two interpretations books by Joji Locatelli and Veera Välimäki, to have a quick flick through to decide if I wanted to buy them myself. Turns out I do, because I want to knit pretty much everything that's in them, and I don't think I don't think Leslie will be happy with me keeping them for as long as it would take me to knit every single thing that's in here. So yeah, they're definitely going on my shopping list. I don't know if you've ever seen these books before. So they're interpretations books. This is volume 4 and volume 5. I know volume 6 is already out, and that means that I'm assuming that volumes 1, 2 and 3 are in existence somewhere. They are all going to have to come home with me. Basically, the way that it works is Joji and Veera take inspiration from a particular word and then sort of develop their own patterns based on their interpretations of those words. So it's quite interesting looking at how they different people interpret the same thing and the same ideas in very different ways. and the pattern choices, I mean, they're two of my favourite knitwear designers anyway, but the patterns that are in here are just beautiful. Trying to think of a couple, any particular. Of course, the one that I really want is the one that's going to be the hardest to show you on video, but this is the tourmaline cowl, and it's shown in black yarn, so it's going to be quite hard, but it's sort of like a really lovely cabled pattern, and I think that one's going to have to be one of the first on my list, and trying to think if I've got anything in stash already that I could make it out of to save having to buy more yarn. It's a sport weight yarn, so I've got some grey, a lightish grey that I could use for that maybe. We'll see. But yeah, so I'm those aren't my copies, those are going back to Leslie, but I will be buying my own copies of those at some point soon, because those are just, the patterns in them are beautiful, and I would definitely strongly recommend them. Anyway, that's pretty much it from me today. Thank you all for watching again. Anything else that I meant to say? No, not really. It's been a pretty quiet couple of weeks. Now that we're... I tried recording this podcast last weekend and found that after about 2 attempts that I had been talking gibberish and not getting coherent sentences out, and was even more ramshackle than normal because I was just not in the right brain space for it. So what I did do was take myself out and go and walk on some grass barefoot, and that really helped. I'm really, really pleased that spring is here, that the nights are getting lighter. It is so beneficial for your mental health to have that extra daylight now. And I don't even, well, certainly not officially, I don't get SADS especially, but just the lift that I'm getting from the sunlight has been amazing. So very much welcoming the onset of spring. Very glad to see more sunshine. Have been, however, mourning the lack of being able to go up to Edinburgh to the Edinburgh Yarn Festival. Been getting a little bit jealous of everybody who's been going up there, trying to hatch and see if I can hatch some plans to go up there next year, but that very much depends on my capacity to not spend money and save up some cash. But fingers crossed. Or a lottery win. Lottery win would definitely work. We're trying to think about, Leslie and I were talking about how we could, which yarn festivals we'd start heading to if we won the lottery, and how much time we'd spend there. Imagining what you do if you won the lottery is a dangerous, dangerous game, but it does make you feel quite nice inside sometimes. Just have to buy a ticket now. Yeah, might have to do that. Anyway, so thank you very much again for everybody for being here, my little corner of the internet. As usual, I'll put notes below. Please leave any comments or questions that you have below. Any suggestions of what to do with this, that would work too. And I'll see you again soon. Thank you very much. Bye.